A number of brands have been in the news this year for missing the mark with consumers. All of them face public backlash after specific decisions or actions angered consumers, including longtime loyal customers. Now, as a business leader, it's helpful to learn not only from what works, but also what doesn't. Spotting patterns across these missteps helps uncover the root causes of consumer discontent and makes it easier to avoid repeating the same mistakes with your own brand. So, after this short break, I'm going to walk you through 3 important lessons that emerge from the patterns of what went down with some of the most notable brand missteps of 2025. Did you know that most businesses only use 20% of their data? That's like reading a book with most of the pages torn out or paying for a coffee that's just 1/5 full. Point is, you miss a lot unless you use HubSpot. Their customer platform gives you access to the data you need to grow your business. The insights trapped in emails, call logs, and transcripts, all that unstructured data that makes all the difference. Because when you know more, you grow more. And when you get a full cup of coffee, you can do more too. But I digress. Visit HubSpot.com today. All right, so the first lesson to embrace is the customer is the boss. Several brands, including many which did not make the headlines, made decisions this year based upon external pressures rather than what their consumers wanted and needed from them. Retailer Target, for example, made the decision to roll back its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in response to political pressure. Consumers did not like the decision. They knew the decision didn't have anything to do with their needs, wants, or desires, or even their best interests. As a result, many of them boycotted Target. Some consumers haven't returned to the store since February and have no plans to go back. When Disney pulled the plug on Jimmy Kimmel Live for remarks made about Charlie Kirk after he was killed, consumers revolted. Droves of consumers started canceling their subscriptions of Disney Plus, canceling Disney cruises and other vacations to showcase their discontent with Disney's decision. A week later, Disney reinstated Kimmel's show. Why? Because the real boss decided that they weren't going to stand and support the brand's actions. Customers have power. They always have, and they always will. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, once said, "There is only one boss, the customer, and he can fire everyone in the company from the chairman on down simply by spending his money elsewhere." Now, smart leaders keep consumers at the center of decision-making because without them, no brand can survive. So let us all embrace this very important lesson and never forget it. The customer is the boss. All right, so the second lesson to embrace from some of the happenings that came in 2025 are that consumers make values-based decisions. Values are at the heart of increasingly more consumer decisions. Research is showing that 82% of consumers make decisions about which brands to engage with and buy from based upon values alignment. And 3 in 4 consumers have parted ways with a brand over values misalignment. Consumers boycotted Target because the brand rolling back DE&I was in conflict with their values. Fans canceled their Disney Plus accounts because they felt like canceling Kimmel's show was in conflict with their beliefs about free speech. When Elf Beauty collaborated with Matt Rife, a comedian that had previously received backlash for jokes he made about domestic violence, many spoke up. Other consumers stopped using their favorite products, which were from Elf, because the brand's choice to work with Matt Rife violated their values about protecting women. And when American Eagle put out that controversial Sydney Sweeney ad, consumers shared their outrage because they felt like the underlying message of the ad was eugenics and was in conflict with their values. Values aren't optional. They are a filter consumers use to decide who earns their money and who doesn't. So brands must not only define their values clearly, but consistently need to demonstrate how those values guide decisions, partnerships, and behavior. And they have to consistently demonstrate how they're living those values so consumers know about it. So don't forget, values are your brand's North Star, and increasingly consumers are using it for theirs as well when it comes to who they should engage with and buy from. All right, so after this short break, we're going to get into the third and final lesson that you should embrace as a result of all these marketing mishaps that happened this year. Okay, I've got another podcast recommendation for you. It's Augmenters, hosted by Julie Meyer and Jimmy Edgerton, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So on this show, Julie and Jimmy dive into mentoring and explore ways to augment and refresh the mentoring environment. They're using 8 core principles that weave relevant spirit guides and diverse guests, and Julie and Jimmy use a lot of humor and practical tips to help mentors and mentees get further, faster together. There's so many great episodes to tune into for this show, but one that you might find especially interesting is their latest episode, number 120, Mentoring Across Gender, Men as Allies and Mentors. Listen to Augmenters wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so the third lesson to remember is that customers are using their voices more than ever. Gone are the days when consumers used to simply sit in frustration whenever they didn't like something a brand did. Consumers have leaned into sharing their joy and discontent with brands exponentially more, especially with tools like social media and sites like Reddit at their disposal to share their experiences in real time. When artist Olivia Dean didn't like the way Ticketmaster charged markups to fans for her shows, she spoke up about it, even getting some of them refunds. After Starbucks made policy changes that impacted consumers and employees, many of them took to social media to express their discontent, causing others to stop supporting the brand in solidarity. And when consumers didn't like the new modernized logo Cracker Barrel unveiled, or its plans to remodel and modernize its stores and menus, they quickly spoke up about it. In all the previous examples mentioned earlier, the other 2 lessons, when consumers had a problem with what brands were doing, they raised their voices and put away their credit cards to ensure the brands heard them. Consumers are no longer just going to sit back and take it when they feel like a brand isn't doing right by them or people they care about. As such, it's critical for brands not to sit in fear of consumer backlash, but it's really important to take stock of the decisions that you're making and take the time to consider the impact it will have on others. If the decisions are values-based and customer-centric, move forward knowing you can stand firm in your decisions, even if backlash comes from certain corners. But if your decisions don't stand up to those 2 standards, be prepared to hear the voices of consumers using their voice to wield their power. All right, so those are the 3 lessons of 2025 to embrace, particularly from some of those brands' missteps that we saw. First one is that the customer is the boss. The second is that consumers more and more are making values-based decisions when it comes to the brands that they're choosing to engage with and buy from. And the last one is that customers are using their voices now more than ever. We are in a new era of modern marketing, and it's important that we learn the lessons that consumers continue to teach us and that the market continues to teach us so we can continue to evolve our brands so we can grow and have a bigger impact on more of the people that we want to serve. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me in 2025 as we've been going through this podcast and bringing you what's been happening in the world of inclusive marketing and inclusive growth. Moving forward in 2026, there are going to be lots of changes, and I'm so excited to walk you through what's coming and how this podcast is going to evolve to serve you even better in the next episode, and you'll hear more of that and see it moving forward and beyond. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Have a wonderful holiday season. And until next time, remember, everyone deserves to have a place where they belong. Let's use our individual and collective power to ensure more people feel like they do. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon.